All right, welcome into the Culver's Saturday Breakout. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. I'm Ryan Brett, home studio. Jim Dunaway is at Jordan-Hare Stadium down in Auburn, where he just watched the Auburn Tigers roll to a 31-20 win over Ole Miss in a very, very odd game, but a great win for the Auburn Tigers, who continue to control their own destiny to Atlanta. Jim Dunaway.
Yeah, it was a big game atmosphere here all day long. I had a chance to get here about, I got here about 1 o'clock and hung out at some tailgates and saw some of our next round fans and some friends. And they were talking about just how Auburn's eased into this season, how they're getting better each week. And they were hoping they'd see some of that tonight. And I thought that first half was so good for this Auburn team and not as smooth in the second half. But in the end, they put They got the stops when they needed to, and this team's in control of its own destiny, something we talked about 2 different times.
Yeah, they are. Ole Miss had to have this win tonight. This game actually had some significant West implications. Ole Miss had to stay at one loss to have any hope of going to Atlanta. So it was a must-win for them. And realistically, a must-win for Auburn. I mean, they've got that Georgia loss hanging over their head. You don't want to have to depend on Alabama catching another loss. Or not finishing in some weird two-way tie, something like that. So, look, I mean, Auburn just needs to keep winning games. So, yeah, big game atmosphere because, it had some big game implications fighting on it. And I thought Auburn, especially in the first half, played that way. Now, the offense sputtered a little bit in the second half, but that was an impressive first half. One of the best halves of football we've seen under Brian Harsin for Auburn in that first half.
Yeah, I think they have 5 drives and 4 touchdowns. And, you look at the other side, I think, first off, they did the old, get the ball. They scored on their first drive and they scored on their last drive. And so they actually had one more drive than Ole Miss did. So Ole Miss only scored on 3 of 4 drives. Auburn scored on 4 of 5. All of Auburn's were touchdowns. Ole Miss had an actual field goal in one of theirs. And then, of course, Lane Kiffin did what Lane Kiffin did in the first and second half and passed up some threes to go for it on fourth down, and that's becoming a habit for him. That's going to become a line on his resume if you're going to hire the guy, right? That you wonder about his fourth down sabermetrics.
Well, it's a major talking point, and look, we talked about it a lot coming out of the Alabama game. I guess it gets highlighted more obviously when they lose than when they win, but we discussed it a lot coming out of the Alabama game, and a lot of people, discounted it playing Alabama, saying, "Look, you can't settle for field goals and beat Alabama Tuscaloosa," which there is obviously some truth to that. But you look at it tonight, Jim, and it didn't have that same feel. I mean, Auburn's offense was really good in the first half, but they weren't near as explosive in the second half. They weren't limiting Ole Miss's possessions the way Alabama did. It just felt like it was a lot of ego in that. And, I'm the 2 early ones where you pass up on a field goal. I mean, the math tells you that probably comes back to haunt you a little bit. What I'll never understand is when it's an 11-point game, you probably only have 1 possession left. You always kick there. It's an 11-point game. You've got to have the field goal at some point. I did not understand that.
That's right. The one at the end when it would have. By the way, that would have been if you'd have taken some threes earlier. That drive would have been to take the lead or to tie it, depending on how many threes you would have taken earlier. So that it all starts to stack on itself. But like you said, even if you throw all the other decisions away, you're down there, and it's automatic. You either got to score a touchdown or get a field goal or get a field goal and a touchdown. And when it becomes fourth down in that situation, why not go ahead and take the 3, try to play a little defense, get the ball back, and then go for the tie or the win at that point. So I agree with you. And, his body language all night long, and, I joked at the end that it was not great body language, but early on, when Corral got hurt, it was a very weird look for Lane Kiffin all night. Now, this place was juiced. The Auburn students were fantastic. Everybody SEC knows what this place is like at night, right? And it was all of that tonight. Jordan-Hare was lit tonight, and they were going to have an uphill battle to win this game. But I didn't like the way Lane coached it at all, and hats off to the Auburn defense. They forced a lot of that.
Charles says, football is one with good players making plays, not nerds with a computer computing averages. I mean, there's some truth. I'm fine with analytics, some of what you do. It seems like when you got a guy walking up and down the field with you with a 3-ring binder telling you you probably, I think, are putting too much into it. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm a little too old school. And again, I think this stuff gets highlighted when you lose football games. All right, let's talk about Dunaway. You got me. All right, well, let's talk about Tank Bigsby and Bo Nix. Tank Bigsby, 23 carries, 140 yards, and a touchdown. Bo Nix, though, had a heck of a game. 22 of 30 passing, 275, a touchdown, and ran for 2 more, 8 carries for 30 yards. So you finally got Bo Nix back over the century mark, and that is, Tank Bigsby back over the century mark, something that had not happened since the Penn State game. All right. Dunaway is out. So I'll talk to you guys. Here we go. Eli says Hell State, and he is right. Mississippi State with a big win tonight. And Southeastern Conference played 31-17. Mississippi State was able to beat Kentucky 31-17, the final there. Started with a Kentucky kick return, but Mississippi State was able to pretty much dominate the game from that point on. Will Rogers, 36 of 39, 344 yards and a touchdown. And just another good offensive performance by Mississippi State. So the Dogs moved to 5-3. And I'm sure over in the Magnolia State, a lot of people concentrating on the fact that the Dogs moved to 5-3 the same day that Ole Miss drops to 2 losses. That Egg Bowl starting to look more and more like 2 like teams in the Egg Bowl. Dave says Jim is smiling because he can't hear me. He was doing the smile and nod at the camera. It's exactly what Dunaway was doing. Smile and nod at the camera. Lance tried to tell us, Jeff said, that Ole Miss would win this game. He backed off at the end. He backed off. If you watch this morning, he was giving out his locks, and he got to this game and said, I was felt really good about Ole Miss, but last minute I backed off. I felt really good about Auburn. Last minute I backed off, and I went to Ole Miss. Or actually didn't even just play the game, but he just felt, for whatever reason, maybe a little bit better about Ole Miss. He should have stuck with it. But you're right, all week Lance did say that. Boy, a lot of you talking about Kiffin. Michael Short here. Never try to understand Lane Kiffin. I think that's probably a pretty good philosophy there. Never try to understand Lane Kiffin. You never know what Kiffin's going to do. You never know what he's thinking. We don't get to see the analytics, obviously. We shouldn't. So you don't know what's coming next. And sometimes I wonder if Lane Kiffin knows what's coming next. I can't do that. Well, I can do this. He wants me to put the Braves game on my big TV because the feed on the game is quicker than my feed's quicker than his, which is kind of weird. It's right up there in the corner right there. You can see the Braves game, but I can't swap it. I don't know what's on my big right now. I don't know what happened. The channel changed for some reason. I think I changed the channel. I was watching the ESPN2 game, and I don't know what has happened here. There we go. All right. We're going to try Dunaway again. We're going to give this a whirl. You back with us?
Hey, man, what's up?
Hey, not a lot.
I've taken it.
All
taken
right.
it off the stand. I took it off the stand, trying to get it back. So let me get back in the picture. Hey, man. I'm the idiot. I'm the idiot in the stands. Everyone keeps walking by down below, looking up, saying, "What the hell's that guy doing? Still sitting up there? He must have had Ole Miss plus the points and came up short or something."
Charles said both Michigan and Michigan State look like they could beat Ohio State this year. Ohio State put away finally Penn State, but that was not an impressive win by. I mean, it's a win in conference, but Penn State plays well there. But I was hesitant to jump on this revived Ohio State bandwagon based on some of the teams they have been playing, and tonight some of their issues really showed they could not run the football effectively. and couldn't run it in the red zone either, Dunaway. That's where they really struggled. So I don't know what to make of the Big Ten right now.
Obviously, I was watching that one as the Auburn game was going on, but I was impressed with Penn State's effort and their defense. And I thought Ohio State was really sluggish as I watched them in the first half offensively. Like you, the 50-plus points that they put up 4 straight games was against the lesser competition. But I was all balled in that Ohio State was the best team in the country that wasn't in the SEC. And I was bought in that they'd be a playoff team. I still don't buy Michigan State after the big win today. I still don't buy Michigan after the win today. I still think it's going to be Ohio State, but, I may be wrong. That was impressive. I really loved the way Mel Tucker coached that game. I don't know about you.
I did too. No, I did. I absolutely loved him. Walker is a stud at running back. He went for over 200 yards and 5 touchdowns on Michigan. Michigan had no answer for him. But, they never panicked Dunaway when they got down. This is what I like most about them. When they got down 16 points in the third quarter, they never went away from the run. He didn't just abandon the run. They still stuck with their game plan, and it paid off. And that's a bad loss for Harbaugh. I mean, his record against top 10 teams is very, very bad, and he just continues to lose games to his 2 biggest rivals, Ohio State and Michigan State. Harbaugh had kind of coached his way off the hot seat. They may be 10-2, and I don't know what you do with him because he can't beat the 2 biggest rivals.
Yeah, I mean, that one hurts because, they're so close together. And the kid that made the big play early on for Michigan is actually an East Lansing kid who made the big, long touchdown early on. So that was sort of a dynamic, and you just thought everything was going to come up Michigan today. And then, boom, Michigan State flips it back around. And, you throw what Harbaugh did in the second half and then what Sark did in the second half for Texas.
Oh.
And it really makes you appreciate coaches that know how to coach with a lead, the teams that can finish and put people away. I mean, I feel like that was one Michigan and one Texas. Both of those should have walked away with victories today.
All right. Joe says this. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'll circle back around to it. I was discussing it when you were redialing there, but Joe says Tank finally had a productive night. Lane needs a new defensive coordinator. Let's start with Tank Bigsby. He had not gone over 100 since the Penn State game, and he did it tonight. Had a really good night rushing the football against a suspect. Look, Ole Miss, you're able to run the ball on them, so that was good to see that Auburn committed to that and they were able to do it. But Tank Bigsby looked like old Tank Bigsby tonight.
Well, remember, Brian Robinson had a big game too, and you said like old Tank Bigsby. I think that's what we're gonna, Brian Harsin and Tank would never tell us he was hurt. But he has gradually looked healthier as we moved on this season. Like he does look closer to 100% now. He does seem to have a little bit more burst, a little bit better, sharper cuts like he used to have. And I thought the offensive line blocked really well tonight too. Our seats here are a little to my right at Jordan-Hare Stadium and left as you face me. And so we're in sort of the end zone turn. So we see the game differently than we used to on the 50-yard line, and we see it from an angle where you can see the holes open up. And I do think there were some really good running lanes tonight. But the fact that Bo was so spot on early on throwing the ball, and that Bo was a threat running the ball, I think that all adds together, much like it did at Arkansas when Tank had a big run early on. It just sort of helped layer that offense out there and really opens up everything for Mike Bobo. And I think tonight Tank was a benefactor of Bo actually throwing the ball well early on.
Well, the other part of what he said, though, as far as DJ Durkin goes, I actually think Ole Miss has improved their defense. You can see a significant difference in their defense from last year to this year. You look at what they did against LSU last week, completely shut down an undermanned LSU team. Against Alabama, they played them better year to year. With Auburn, probably about the same year to year. That defense has shown signs of improvement, though. I didn't look at that game tonight and say, boy, that's on DJ Durkin there. I mean, I thought, in fact, Auburn's offense only scored 3 points in the second half. I mean, they played good enough defense in the second half, created a turnover. They played good enough defense in the second half. I think to win that game, it's your head coach that's going for every fourth down, even when it doesn't make sense, that cost you a chance to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? 31-20? Still on the scoreboard back there. 31-20.
Yeah, 31-20. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Ole Miss with Ole Miss's offense, if I hold people to 31 points, I think I should win those football games. So, yeah, I put it all at Lane Kiffin's feet. I do think DJ's made that defense better. Is it is it Georgia? No. Is it Alabama? No, it's not even Auburn. And I wanted to bring that up, Brown. Why we got a connection here. Who knows when we lose it? But Owen Papo played, and he made an impact. And you just start naming these guys. Zacoby McClain, Smoke Monday, McCrary, Wooten. I mean, those are some guys. We've heard those names for a while down here at Auburn, and they're all healthy and starting to play really improved defense. This Auburn team, we talked about it twice throughout the week. As Ole Miss, you hear the sirens, they're leaving town now on their way out. We talked about it on the week, early in the week. This Alabama trip down here to Jordan-Hare Stadium is going to get really, really interesting, especially if Auburn can go to College Station next week and get a victory.
Well, here, Crimson Tide beat ass this. Looks like Texas A&M Auburn is the CBS game. Bama LSU at 7 would be his guess. Actually going to be 6, 7 Eastern. I don't know if he's from the Eastern time zone. By the time this airs, next round live on the audio side, they'll probably have made this announcement. But as we talk about it live on a Saturday night, they have not here on the Culver Saturday Breakout. I think it's pretty obvious 2:30 CBS shows Auburn, Texas A&M. I mean, that's another significant West game.
Yeah, I mean, where will Auburn and A&M both be in the rankings with what has gone on today?
That's a good question. Let me pull that up.
Both of them will move up. And, I mean, that becomes to stay alive. Texas A&M technically still alive in some form or fashion of a hunt to make it to Atlanta if they win that game. And Auburn obviously is. So it's a huge game.
Yeah, Kentucky's going to fall. Ole Miss is going to fall. Iowa is going to fall. Those are all teams that are right in front of A&M and Auburn. Pittsburgh is going to fall. So
Michigan
Auburn
will not fall past them.
I would not think so. That was Michigan's first loss, tight loss on the road.
Yeah, to a ranked top 10 team.
Yep. So I would think Auburn could jump. It's a top 15 matchup. And look, the other choices they reserved are Alabama, LSU, which everybody thinks is going to be a bloodbath, and Georgia, Missouri, which is going to be a bloodbath. I mean, Missouri is not a very good team. They fought tooth and nail to beat Vandy in Nashville today. And Georgia, we'll get to that in a moment, just destroyed Florida. So to me, Dunaway, I think you probably got, if I had to guess, Georgia, Missouri coming out of game day, which is, that's a rough out of game day game. You got 2:30 CBS, Auburn, Texas A&M, and primetime Alabama, LSU. And my guess would be College Game Day is a College Station. It's the biggest game in the nation next week.
Put me down as and I don't know if they've announced it yet or not. If they have not, put me down for Alabama, LSU at a game day, and they'll be in College Station. But I think I'm like you. I don't think they really want to bury out of game day with Georgia, but maybe they will. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I can make a case either way. As an Alabama fan, I would want it to be at 6 o'clock under the lights. Time change on Sunday. I'd want it all to be in Tuscaloosa at 6 o'clock. That'd be the dream.
Yeah. The other option is putting Georgia, Missouri in primetime, which is not exactly a great idea for ESPN either. We'll talk about some more of the games. It is the Culver's Saturday Breakout. Don't forget, Culver's got 2 great locations soon. One right now you go to just off of 459 and 150 Stadium Trace there in Hoover, near the Hoover Met. And coming soon, Tattersall Park, 119 and Highway 280. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. All right, you see Dunaway is there in Jordan-Hare. I'm Ryan Brown in my home studio. It is the Culver's Saturday Breakout. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Before we broke there, we were talking about Georgia, Florida. We mentioned that game. The cocktail party was a weird game. I don't know if you got to see the end of the second half. I know you were in transit to Auburn in all likelihood or getting settled there. But, I mean, that's a 7-3 game, and you're starting to talk yourself into maybe they can hang around here. And then, man, that last 2 minutes, just a flurry of points. Basically all Florida mistakes and turnovers, and Georgia puts that game away before halftime.
The first eyeballs I laid on that game at the tailgate was 3-0 Georgia, and Stetson Bennett threw that interception into the end zone, and the guy didn't take the knee, and ran it back out to the 2 or the 1.5. And I was like, oh, you gotta stay in the end zone on that. Get the ball out to the 20. And then it all broke open and just fell apart right there. And I watched enough of that to know that Georgia's defense did something to Florida that they haven't had happen to them since 2017, where they didn't get a touchdown until late in that game. And it was man versus boys, but for a quarter, I thought maybe, okay, this is gonna be an interesting cocktail party. But in the end, this Georgia team's really good. I still don't feel good about their quarterback though when it gets to a big game. Do you?
I don't. I mean, if you look inside the numbers now, look, they got a big lead, so they were able to take the air out of the ball, done away, and burn clock. But Stetson Bennett, 10 of 19, 161, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. That's not championship level numbers. They don't have a receiver that just scares you. I mean, early in that game, before it got away from Florida was just basically, standard Todd Grantham. They were stacking the box and blitzing a lot because they don't fear Georgia going deep. Georgia didn't just run it exceptional. I mean, Zamir White had 106 rush yards, 105 rush yards. But, look, again, Georgia got that big lead. They were able to take the air out of it. They won 34-7. I'm not trying to take away from it. But I think the one thing this team doesn't have, they have got a dominant defense, one of the best we have seen in a long time. I think the one thing they don't have, though, is just a prolific offense. I don't think if teams find a way to score on Georgia, and we haven't seen it yet, I don't know if Georgia can keep up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's an if somebody can score in Georgia. We don't know if any. I mean, we may go all year and nobody does it. I mean, that's happened in college football before. We didn't think we'd ever see it again, but it's happened before in college football. So yeah, they could be that. They could be those dudes that don't allow anybody to score. That's going to be hard to believe, though, for me that maybe Alabama, maybe Ohio State or somebody like that can't force them into having to score some points. And then what do you do? Are you going to be able to score? They can't even really run the ball like some great Georgia teams have run the ball. So, yeah, they're still not overpowering on the offensive side to make me think, okay, this could be, one of those iconic teams, one of the best teams we've ever seen.
I don't know. Well, I mean, if you're Dan Mullen, I don't know that you got a great selection at quarterback right now. I was about to say I don't know what you do. I don't know that either selection is good.
Well, that's the note I wrote down here is can we get off Dan? I'm not a big Dan Mullen fan, but can we get off Dan's back about he needs to play Anthony Richardson? Because, I thought Emory Jones looked better in the final 3 quarters against Alabama than Anthony did at all today.
Yeah, so you don't like 12 of 20, 82 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns? You didn't like that performance by Anthony Richardson?
No. I wouldn't like that if he was I wouldn't like that if he was QB2 at my local high school. No.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But Emory Jones, 10 of 14, 112, ran the ball a little bit, 22 rush yards and a touchdown. I guess you go back to him. Doesn't really matter. Florida, the remainder of their schedule is the easy part of their schedule. I think they're going to find, they got South Carolina next. I think you and I could probably start in that game. Then they play Samford, then that Missouri team. Florida State, who had a chance to beat Clemson today. So that's, I guess,
they
some
did.
Sort of a revived Florida State team. Boy, that was a bad beat.
Yeah, it was. It was it was a bad beat if you're a gambler, too, at the end, right? Oh, is that what you were talking about?
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, I didn't think Florida State was going to win. But they tried the lateral play, Clemson scoops and scores to take it from a 3-point game to 10, or from a 4-point game to a 10-point game. So you can do the math there. But real quick, Florida. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What?
No, that's how you end up on SVP's bad beats, right?
It will be. It'll lead it. Florida does not play a team with a winning record from here on. So I think they can get 4 more wins, but that's still an 8-4, which is so weird. That's the same exact record they had last year. They're going to end up with the same record they had last year. But last year that was an 8-4 against a conference-only schedule that ended up in Atlanta. It's going to be an 8-4 against this schedule this year, and you're not going to end up in Atlanta because Georgia today became one of the earliest teams in the history of the SEC to clinch a spot in the Southeastern Conference Championship game. So they have clinched a spot in Atlanta. October 30th. October 30th is all it took. That Kentucky loss at Mississippi State, coupled with the Georgia win, puts them in Atlanta on October 30th. The whole month of November, already having won the East.
That is pretty amazing. Can you tell me something about Mississippi State, Kentucky? Because I only saw a little bit of that. LT said all week long the Mississippi State was going to win that game, and I'm always amazed when he tells us something on Monday, and we get to it, and it actually happens the way he says it, and that happens a lot. I'm not saying that rarely happens, but when it does, especially when it's something, I know what I'm watching. Every time I looked up, Will Rogers was completing a pass, and then I looked at his stat sheet, and it was like 36 of 39 for a little bit. And that's not his final stats; it's just where I caught him. So he must have had a great night against that what was supposed to be a really good Kentucky defense, huh?
No, Will Rogers is really good. He was 36 of 39, so the ball only hit the ground 3 times, 344 and a touchdown. I think your takeaway from this game is what has played Kentucky football for the entire Mark Stoops era. They had 216 yards, Jim, 216 yards. Only able to scratch out 66 on the ground. So Zach Arnett's defense really, really played well. And Kentucky just could do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's disturbing because, for a brief moment, they were getting a lot of love, not just for Will Levis, but for their offensive coordinator. But you ended up being a lot of the same old from this Kentucky team. Missouri and Vandy was more fun than we thought it was going to be, but Missouri wins that one in the end. What was your biggest takeaway today? If I had to say, Ryan, one big nutshell, what was your biggest takeaway?
Probably the fact that, Michigan State looks like a team. They're still undefeated. They, to this point, had not really played a back-breaking schedule. But watching them, I think they can be undefeated going into this Ohio State game that's in Columbus. And then watching Ohio State tonight against Penn State, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that Michigan State can play with them. Their next 2 games before that are Saturday at Purdue, who beat Nebraska today. And that's not an easy game for Michigan State. That is definitely a losable game. But then they play Maryland at home the week after that. It is a little bit of a trap game because it's before Ohio State. But it's not going to shock me if that's undefeated Michigan State versus undefeated Ohio State. By then, that could be a top 5 matchup. And I think Michigan State could have something for them. I think they could have something for them.
Yeah, that's one big takeaway. Absolutely. Georgia being number 1. The playoff committee comes out Tuesday night with their rankings. I guess they were all meeting in Dallas, watching the games this weekend, and they'll come up with their rankings before they leave Dallas. If I asked you to give me 1, 2, 3, 4 right now, how do you do it?
I think they will go 1 Georgia. I think that's the easy one, obviously. I think they will go 2. I think they'll go 2 Ohio State. I think they'll go 3 Oklahoma, 4 Alabama. And I think Cincinnati has given them a little bit of a free pass here over the last 2 weeks. I think Cincinnati has made it easy for them to say, the last couple of weeks, they really struggled at Navy. That game came down to an onside kick at Tulane today. That was a tight game for a lot of that game at Tulane. So I think Cincinnati hasn't been real dominant of late. And I think this, the committee's looking for every reason not to have them in there, because once you have them in there, you're either going to have to send them to the playoffs, or at some point you're going to have to boot them out and explain it. So it is way easier to not put them in there to begin with than boot them out and have to explain it.
I counted 2 post-game questions for Luke Fickell today that were about them sort of limping to victories or not being overwhelming in their wins. And, he tried to answer them away, but, ultimately he knows that they've got to start, getting style points if they want to be included in this thing for the exact reason you said. I can't believe we got the same 4. So we do.
Is that the 4 you've got?
Yeah, in that order too. That's exactly the way I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else you would put up in there. I mean, you've got Ohio State in, so I don't think they'll put Michigan State in. I don't know that they've earned it. I think Oklahoma's shaky. They played better today, Oklahoma did. They beat Texas Tech, who just fired their coach, 52-21, and Caleb Williams looked good again. Oregon beat Colorado 52-29, but they've got that one loss. I think that's the way they're going to go there, because they're, again, Georgia, Alabama is going to rectify itself. You can have both those teams in there. They're going to play one another unless Alabama loses again, in which case you don't have to worry about it. Your tough decision becomes, and I don't even really think that's tough a decision, comes if Alabama beats Georgia. Do you put them both in? And I think you would. But, that's kind of their free pass on that one, is those two are going to play one another. So I think it's very easy to have them in the top 4 right now.
Yeah, I guess they could throw Cincinnati a bone, put them in, and then if Alabama doesn't beat Georgia, or if, Michigan State doesn't earn their way in, or Oklahoma doesn't earn their way in, you're taken care of there. And you're like, hey, we already had Cincinnati in anyway. But once you put them in, they've got to
hard.
Lose their way out or be pushed out in some form or fashion.
Yeah. Charles says Oregon beat Ohio State. Have we forgotten that? No, we have not forgotten that. But Oregon did lose to Stanford. And, it's what have you done for me lately when you start doing this? Ohio State will be in, Oregon will not be in spite of that loss on the field. And I think even Oregon fans probably look at that and say, yeah, we kind of did that to ourselves. We shouldn't have gone to lose at Stanford.
Well, 2 things on that. What comes out Tuesday isn't the last one. And I think if it comes down at the very end and I'm deciding between Oregon and Ohio State, that becomes a big factor. And Oregon could get in over Ohio State. And I've always said this, even since I was 11 and there was a big Alabama, getting left out of a national championship. And I wrote this long letter to Sports Illustrated. Isn't it better for a team like Ohio State to lose to a team like Oregon than a team like Oregon to lose to a team like Stanford? You know what I'm saying?
I do. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, that Oregon losing to Stanford, there's a talent gap there. And Oregon and Ohio State are like teams. So, I mean, I can understand Ohio State losing to Oregon. It's hard for me to understand Oregon losing to Stanford. But I do agree with him that in the end, if it's 1 loss Oregon, 1 loss Ohio State, that's when Oregon's going to be ahead of Ohio State. But I think a lot of people are going to be upset on Tuesday or with the AP poll or whatever when Ohio State is higher than Oregon because of that head-to-head. It's at the final part, if need be, that I think Oregon would jump Ohio State because of the head-to-head.
One thing about Cincinnati is the only ranked team they have left on their schedule is SMU, who lost to Houston tonight, 44-37. A weird game for those that didn't see it. First of all, it was a great game for those that didn't see it. But SMU had just kicked a field goal to tie it at 37. They're at Houston. They kick off Dunaway. 19 seconds to go. Houston houses the kickoff with 19 seconds to go. That's a pretty late in the game kickoff return. You generally do not see that, especially for the win. And SMU does get a long kick return plus a penalty. They get a shot at the end zone, and it's knocked down. But SMU, I don't know if they'll fall out of the top 25 with that loss. Houston will probably sneak in, but Cincinnati doesn't get them till the championship game. So Cincinnati's regular season is going to be without a top 25 win. It appears right now.
Yeah, back to the SMU game, the actual game itself. What a great kick from the SMU kicker in that situation. I was expecting to see a college kicker situation, him duck hook that or push it right or something. Yeah. So he nailed that. But then, and I wasn't when he made that kick, that's when I made my way down to the field for the end of the Auburn game. So I was wondering, did they squib it? Did they kick it deep?
No,
did they kick it off to
kicked
them?
It deep. Could not believe it. I couldn't believe they kicked it deep. Don't you squib every time there? Every single time you squib.
You got to. You got to make somebody other than their big return guy return the football at that
That's
point.
Right. Yeah, I could not believe they kicked it deep. Dave Aranda is going to start getting some Coach of the Year talk. 31-24, Sark had another fourth-quarter meltdown. Oklahoma State, now Baylor, where he's had double-digit fourth-quarter leads that he can't close out. They lose today, but Baylor is a one-loss team right now, and you'll start getting some. I wonder if Dave Aranda's name, Mel Tucker obviously had a good day as it relates to the LSU coaching search. Dave Aranda's got some connections. Do you wonder if you start hearing his name a little bit?
Possibly, but he's, as I said, you're very loyal to people who give you an opportunity, and Baylor gave him an opportunity to be a head coach, and I don't know if he ever thought he was going to get that opportunity or not. So, I feel like he'll be loyal there, but I think what would hurt Baylor in that situation to keep them, in a bidding war is the fact that the conference they're going to be in is losing, Oklahoma and Texas. So that would be interesting for me. A lot of people keep saying Lane Kiffin to LSU, but when you see games like tonight here at Jordan-Hare Stadium, I wonder if that helps or hurts his resume.
It would hurt it if I'm an LSU guy. Yeah. If I'm an LSU guy, I don't want any part of that. Yeah.
So, I mean, Aranda, Mel Tucker, everyone talked on game day. Mel looked really at home there in East Lansing. He has a long history there. But boy, he looked impressive today. It was a really good day for Mel Tucker. I like the way he handled himself on game day. I like the way he looked, the Spartan walk or whatever they call it there down the road in East Lansing. It was a great day for Mel Tucker, great day for Dave Aranda. And if they're wanting to go back to Baton Rouge, you got to like both of those guys in that situation.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, that is our Saturday breakout. It is presented by Culver's. Welcome to Delicious, two great locations. Soon, right now, you can get that one at 15459 Stadium Trace in Hoover, next to the Hoover Met. And coming soon to Tattersall Park, Highway 119 and 280. That'll be very, very soon. Two great locations of Culver's and many more to come in this area. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. I liked the beauty shot you were giving us there at the end.
How about that?
It's great. Fantastic.
Ooh. Jim's got his own cable cam. Whoa.
Don't fall. All right. Are you going back to tailgate or are you driving back to Birmingham?
I'm going to go by a tailgate on the way out, say hi to some friends, and then drive back, get up early, and go play golf at Farm Links.
Oh, that sounds fun. It's going to be a cold.
And then I'll see you.
What time? Huh? You invited me.
I invited you, and then I'll see you on Monday morning. It is going to be cold. I don't like playing in the cold.
What time you off?
We got 10, 40, 10, 50, and 11. 3 groups.
57 degrees at 10 a.m., 61 at 11. That's not too bad. You can live with that.
Yeah. Well, I've got a coat I never went to today. I got this little runner's thing right here. I
thought you were wearing your next round hoodie.
Oh, I am. I've got the hoodie, but I've got the hoodie's on top of. Yeah, They were making fun of me at the tailgate because I was double logoed up. I didn't know that wasn't cool to wear logo.
Hey.
And I was like, hey, I said, we're in business for ourselves now, man. I'm trying to I was handing out business cards. Yeah.
Razor and out of way.
One guy of winning or losing?
Winning. One guy told you what?
One guy told me, he's like, I listen to you guys on the website every day. I just hate that I can't hear you in the car. And I'm like, we've got an app. And he's like, you got an app? And I'm like, it is plastered all over the website.
I know.
It wasn't just a normal person. I was like, yes, dude, give me your phone. I downloaded it for him. I said, we don't even steal your information. We don't even get your name. You just download it and it plays.
Yeah, I ran into a guy in the grocery store. Went to the grocery store for my Saturday, my food that I like to eat during the games. And he stopped me and asked me when we were going to be back on radio. And I said, well, probably never. Well, how am I going to hear you
never?
Guys? And I gave him the website, and he was like, man, this is amazing. I had no idea. So, there you go.
Yep. Tell your friends. Get that
That's
app.
right. Yeah, go get that app. Go get the website. Subscribe on YouTube. Do all those things.
He watches the YouTube. It's crazy. He listens on the website when he's at work, and he watches YouTube, but he misses us in the car. That's what download the app.
Just download the app. Links right up. All right. Well, be careful. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for joining us on the Culver's Saturday Breakout. Good night, all.